Hey, we're live, pal. Andrew, this is the second show that I've done on this very network in like 16 hours or something.
Dude, I listened to you and Dave this morning. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun, but like I told you off air, I don't like not that I don't like it, but I'm not that good at recapping a wrestling show, and Brian is like the best who's ever done it. And so when I have to do that, I get a little insecure about recapping that show because that's kind of Brian's thing. So I was like, oh, I don't like doing it, but just filling in. And he's hoping he has a great vacation. And I think he's going to be back this weekend, and we'll get a little Jim Valley action Thursday
Yeah.
morning for Dave and Jim Valley.
I'm the only one on the East Coast, so it's almost impossible for me to host it with Dave.
Oh, I was totally going to dial you in, but I figured you'd already been in your REM sleep by the time we recorded.
What time did you record?
Like 10:15 p.m. my time.
10:15
So
your time. Okay.
1:15 your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I'm deep in whatever world I'm in.
So you and I didn't chat last week, though we did have Paul Fontaine. Thanks again for Paul for joining. But the week prior, you and I were going back and forth in text, and it was all because of
Man.
Dave Meltzer's tweet about CM Punk and what he means to TV rights and all that stuff. And so you and I haven't been able to have a conversation about it, but let's do that now. I mean, it's a little bit of old news as far as the breaking of that news, but the stuff is still like there's no deal done. So let's chat about that.
I decided to take off on the worst day last week.
Yeah.
It was actually unbelievable. So I had a crazy work day and I had meetings all day. And around, I guess, 3:00 or whenever Dave put that tweet out, my phone was just blowing up. And I mean, I saw a Connecticut number call me and I was like, okay, I left my meeting. Okay. I saw Connecticut calling and somebody, I'm going to censor it because I don't want this to get flagged. He goes, "Can you please explain what the F this is?" About Dave's tweet.
Amazing.
And I had no idea. I'm like, dude, I have no clue, but let me ask around. And I spoke about this on the other shows. I pretended I was a journalist for the first time.
Yeah.
And I did my due diligence and I called everybody that I could possibly ask. I spoke to Nick Hausman. I spoke to Dave. Dave and I were going back and forth. I spoke to Brian. I mean, everybody you could imagine, whoever's in the know. And, Dave dropped that bombshell. And, my stance on this is that where there's smoke, there's fire, for sure. CM Punk has changed how that deal is being put together now. Because they've seen, he is the last of those, or at the time, the last of those free agent big time names that's available.
Yep.
And, kudos to WWE and Punk to be able to kind of put everything aside and to restart it. But here is where the path kind of divides.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been told by one person from AEW or WBD or WWE that this is that, Warner and AEW are in talks. Okay. Warner and WWE are in talks and the AEW deal is in jeopardy. I don't know that. Nobody has said a word to me. A lot of people were almost dumbfounded by this, that they never heard of it. And I know people have planned, the expectation to many people within WBD is that AEW is here to stay. So it means two things, right? It either means that this was a nothing story, which I don't believe it is. I don't believe it's a nothing story. Or it's that the talks are on such a high level where, Dave just happened to be one of the first people to get wind of this. Mike Johnson was able to confirm that on his, from his sources that there was a meeting in New York on Monday.
Yep.
I know that office, I don't know. Do I feel that AEW's in jeopardy? I still lean no. But I don't know what those conversations were.
Yeah.
I
lean with you in the sense of I think it would take a lot, just knowing WBD and how they're doing business with other properties, including the NBA. They everybody says who covers this stuff that WWE wants less of the NBA on this go round, because what the NBA is trying to do is they're trying to bump up their rights fees by like, gosh, what is like 3x or something. And so
What are they
basically,
currently? What do you know? Because you follow this heavily. Do you know what the NBA rights are right now? Because WWE wanting 400 million a year for Raw
yeah,
sounds insane. Especially when you're WBD and you have the NBA. You're negotiating right now. You've done major cost cutting. You shelved a $90 million movie where it was
yes.
near completion because you didn't want to go through, run through more money. So I
So
it's
the
fascinating.
NBA is trying to go from 24 billion, I think it's over 9 years, to 75. So how do they get to
Okay.
75? Now it sounds like Warner wants half, maybe. This is the scuttlebutt, right? Like this, no one is reporting this as far as this is exactly what the negotiation is. They're saying this is what the scuttlebutt is. The scuttlebutt is that Warner Brothers Discovery wants half of the package, or a piece of the package, and hopeful to pay a similar amount that they paid for what they have now for the next years, or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe they end up paying a similar amount, but they just get less because the rights have gone up. So instead of 2 nights a week, maybe they only have 1 night a week. And maybe, the inside the NBA guys, maybe they still do 2 shows, but maybe one of them is only on game night, or so whatever it's going to be. So how do they make up the rest of this money? Well,
Yeah.
ESPN is probably going to want a very similar package as they currently have. And then you have NBC, who may want it for broadcast and for Peacock. And then Amazon has
And
talked
for
about,
USA. And for USA.
well, yeah, possible for USA. Like imagine WWE and NBA being in the same on the same network.
I mean, I've
That's
heard
kind of
that. I've
cool.
heard the conversation that they would want to put some games on there because, again, the your ad revenue is represented not only by the show, the individual show, but also the overall rating for your network. That's why it's so important to have syndicated shows like Big Bang Theory or SVU or Seinfeld, because that is an easy. You're paying so much for the right to air for syndication, but
Hmm.
what it does to the optics, again, here's that word, of your station is that it gives you a boost. We spoke about that with USA, where WWE was their primary thing. At one point, when they had Monk and Suits and all those other shows, they were doing great. Without WWE, they plummet as far as the ranking goes for cable.
Hmm. So, yeah, if USA gets a night, and then TNT has their night, and then ESPN gets their 2 nights, then you kind of fill that whole schedule there, and maybe they do end up doing some special games on NBC. And then there's the Amazon aspect of this, right? Amazon seems to be in discussions on just about every big deal that is going on out there. They are getting a piece of a lot of this stuff. And and then that comes, does wrestling want to get involved in with Amazon as well? Boxing just got involved with Amazon, though we don't have numbers on that. So I'm with you. I kind of think that WWE is a little bit too rich for their blood, but the one thing that would slightly get me to consider it is the fact that if they do get less NBA, they may want a night of 3 hours of TV where they're going to get, 1.7, 1.8 million viewers for, 3 hours or whatever. That makes sense to me, but I do think it is a little rich for what they seem to be willing to pay for a lot of this stuff. They still have a ton of debt that they're bringing down. There is the Max thing also that I think
Yeah.
fits with the AEW story that would not fit with the WWE story.
As of today, right?
Well, I mean, as of today until 2026, because
Yeah.
that's WWE's locked
I,
up for that long.
you know, I it's interesting to have the discussion because I have generally not heard anything negative from anybody at Warner regarding from the marketing team or sales team or on the the executive level. I've never been approached with, oh man, this show tanked or whatever. Like they don't. It's a very different way of thinking. Like when you go on Twitter and you see the comments, and one of the suggestions is, well, Nick Khan could take less money to put it on. I'm like, Nick Khan has to answer to investors.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, you're sitting? Do you think on your investor call, you're gonna say like, oh yeah, we took about 1x less than we should have, but we want to really f Tony Khan and that AEW. Doesn't work like that. You're in the business of generating money and revenue. The Saudi deal is a great example. You put away whatever belief you have when you're throwing $100 million a year. So I don't feel that would be it. That is not a reason, but is it possible? Yeah, I think it's possible. Do I think it's likely? I'm still leaning towards no. But anything could change.
What Dave and I were talking about last night is he says that no matter whatever decision WBD makes, he thinks it's going to be the biggest story of 2024, no matter what. If they go to WWE, if they don't, and they become AEW partners again, and because there's so many variables here, does AEW get the bump, which puts them into a stratosphere that only WWE and possibly the hottest WCW ever was in existence? Or do they not get that crazy bump that people were thinking about, and then they have to be a little bit smarter? Maybe they have to cut down roster in order to be profitable. So lots of stuff that the TV stuff, it's so funny because I don't know if it's just because of what we do and there's more podcasts out there and there's more way to cover wrestling. But back in the day, whenever the TV stuff was happening, these business deals, I don't feel like it was that big of a story. Like it was only Dave who was writing about it, maybe Wade, but it wasn't as big. Like we've had so much discussions about this, and they're not even going to make a decision until probably midway to end of 2024. So it's crazy
it's
how
interesting.
the business works today.
The business works, how it's changed. The other thing I want to say, Dave was really, I mean, I had a lot of off the record. I mean, you too. We had a ton of off the record conversations with Dave, and I put out that tweet where I said, off the record is the adult version of pinky swearing at this point. I can't. On Tuesday, the amount of times I said off the record or someone said off the record to me, and it's like this honor code, that you kind of have to follow. But I mean, everybody was digging. Every single person, every known name that covers wrestling legitimately was digging for an answer. And nobody came through with the answer.
There were some people who thought David lost his mind as well.
Dave has not lost his mind.
He has not lost his mind.
He will eventually. He will eventually. And we will all see it live on the air. But Dave has yet to lose his mind. Where there is smoke, there is fire.
So you mentioned the off the record thing. I was watching Succession. Now I'm still way behind. I'm only in season 2. I slow watch Succession. And there's this episode early in season 2 where there's an author who's trying to do a biography of Logan Roy. And she gets Cousin Greg to meet with her. And Cousin Greg is trying to figure out how to be off the record, but how to still be a part of this biography at the same time. And he's like, off the record, and no, this me walking away, that's off the record, right? The whole idea of being off the record is hilarious. But yeah, I mean, that's, really, you don't want to burn sources. You don't want to burn people who are giving you information. And
also friends, right? You don't want to burn friends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know someone, okay, not from wrestling, but from the NBA side of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they leaked the story to a journalist, okay? I'm not going to name names because I know both these people, and this is not a story that went public.
Okay.
And it was such a in the room conversation that it could have only been him.
Right.
And he lost a 6-figure job.
Damn.
For running to, the New York Post Daily Newsday or whatever he ran to.
Gazette.
The Gazette. And it's terrible. It's a terrible thing. And you want to protect the people that give you this information and to help you with your career. So, but, like if I knew something, I would say it.
Yes.
For sure. So I think it's more wait and see. We have to wait and see. I do know that certain parts of AEW and Warner, there were certain discussions that had happened already, and they had agreed on a lot of stuff. So I don't know where we're at. That was months ago. Now things change fast. So I feel more comfortable in like 2 weeks to go into this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is going to be
settle.
This is going to be a story that we're going to be discussing for a long time. By the way, what do you think about this idea that I think this is a little bit of fan fiction, and this is probably based on Punk's promo. But do you believe David Zaslav is on his yacht and he's like, kind of wonder what Punk is doing right now. Let me dial him up on my cell phone. CM, what's going on? Like this relationship, like this idea that David Zaslav watches wrestling and thinks CM Punk is a big deal. Do we buy that?
No, I don't think David Zaslav gives a shit. I think David Zaslav wants whatever's going to generate the most amount of money. But, but here's the other side, right? Fool me once, shame on you. They tried twice with him. You know what the problem with that line is? Every time I say to fool me once, shame on you, I think of George Bush's flub. You remember that? He's like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame you can't fool a fool man twice or something, whatever he said. And I go into laughter. If that's like a priority for David Zaslav, I would be shocked. Fish, man. Oh my God. He has a media empire that's not doing so great.
Yes.
So, I think it's fun, to speculate and to have this idea that he's on his freaking yacht and he's calling CM Punk. He's like, get me Hunter in the office on Monday. Like, okay, that's a fun fantasy, but that's not how it works at all.
Yeah.
Especially on that high level conversation. Like, I don't think Nick Khan and David I mean, I'm sure they've spoken, but I don't think that they're sitting there and talking about CM Punk.
Do you think who do you think initiated this conversation? Let's say David Zaslav's still on his yacht, Ari Emanuel on the PJ, texting. Who's the person who texts first to go, what do you think about WWE?
Oh, it's Vince. Hey, pal. It's probably Nick. It's probably
if
Nick
this
Khan.
If this was the Saudis, Succession. I would say it was Vince. It was Vince. If it's the Saudis, then I would say yes, Vince. But so you think Nick Khan driving his Tesla is texting, asking Siri to text David Zaslav?
Is that what
that's
Nick's
how
driving?
You think I have no idea. I was just thinking of. I don't know if
I just ordered the Cybertruck, so I wonder if Nick's driving that.
I mean, Nick Khan is a savvy dude, but I don't know if he's in the PJ with Ari Emanuel or on the yacht with David Zaslav quite yet. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm underestimating his source of travel.
Listen, he's a very, tremendously respected person in the world of sports business. He's really
going to be a Wrestling Observer Hall of Famer pretty soon, I think.
You know what? He definitely was. He definitely will, for sure, 100%.
All right, so we'll put a lid on that conversation for now. Let's talk about some actual wrestling, some Continental Classic. What do you call it? Do you call it the Continental Classic? Do you call it the C2? Do you call it C squared? I've seen people try and give this thing nicknames, and I'm not sure if any of them have stuck yet.
The Tourney.
The Tourney.
It's the Tourney. No, I call it the Continental Classic. The C2 stuff is just new. I just saw this. It just hit me. I just reached that level of Twitter where that's all I'm seeing.
I see people on Twitter using some sort of code to make it a squared. I don't think there's a squared key on our phone. Is there? Someone has to do some funky gymnastics there to make the squared symbol. Okay, so Will Washington, our friend of the show, Will Washington, by the way, he wrote a tweet today to break down the scenarios for Wednesday's Dynamite, the Holiday Bash. Yeah. So Will wrote that if Moxley and Swerve win, we have a clear-cut rematch semifinal in Orlando, and they will have 15 and 12 points respectively. But if Jay White beats Moxley and Swerve wins, we have a 3-way tie with 12 points each. That would be crazy if that happens. And I wonder if that's what they're building to. I hope not, because I don't like... I not only have they not explained to us the tiebreaker in that scenario, but I sort of feel it's going to be a 3-way, and I don't know if there should be a 3-way in this tournament. Go ahead.
Okay, continue. All right.
If Roosh and Moxley win, then we have a 3-way tie for second at 9 points with Swerve, White, and Roosh. So the same problem, if that scenario happens, is we will need to find a way to break that tie to get to the second person who qualifies. If Roosh and Jay White win, Swerve is eliminated, but so is Roosh, and the top two are Moxley and Jay White, which would set up an immediate rematch to get to the championship match. And there is no scenario for Roosh to advance with a Jay White victory. All of that being said, what do you want to see happen? Who do you want to see? Who, the fan, Andrew Zarian, the 16-year-old fan who wants to see the best match for World's End? Who do you want to see qualify in the Gold League?
You know my fanboy answer to this.
What?
There's only one person I want to see win this.
Who?
Danielson.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, there's only one person. So with that said, like, so on Observer Live, I said something and my email inbox blew up. My DMs blew up. I know some of the matches happening at World's End. So
right.
Okay, so I'm not gonna. There's any name that I throw out there. It means nothing. It is not inside anything because I don't want to poo-poo on things.
Right.
I get yelled at when I do that. But I mean, for me, it would have to be Danielson because that's my personal favorite. Swerve. And Mox. I mean, those are. You know who? Actually, Andrade. I want to see Andrade win.
That would be kind of crazy if he was to win.
That would be crazy, but you know, they've done a great job at rehabbing him.
Well, what are they rehabbing him for, actually, though?
Well, for Miro, apparently.
So, I mentioned this before, but all we hear is talk that Andrade wants to go back to WWE. Like, are we rehabbing him to hand deliver him back to WWE at some point?
Yeah, but but here's the other thing, right? He's making a ton of money.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these guys are. I'm not singling them out. The work schedule is so much better. You have to justify. Your time is valuable too.
Yeah.
You know, if you could, I'm throwing a number. If you can make $3 million, let's say not $3 million. Let's say you're making $1.2 million in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
You're wrestling about 30 times a year max.
Mm-hmm.
You go to WWE, you're not doing 200 dates, but you're at least doing, 100.
Yeah.
Maybe 80. Is that money worth it for you? Does it not bother you, the travel? You know, a lot of this has to go into consideration. When you're only working on a Saturday, and that's it, and then you got a pay-per-view, you're still out there. Your life is not really disrupted.
So, and here's another thing. Now, I'm not saying I want to see him go back to WWE, though. I would be interested in seeing how Triple H books him because Triple H booked him very well at NXT. I think Andrade is awesome in AEW.
Yeah.
I just hope this is the place where he wants to be, and I hope if this is the place where he wants to be, I think he's a possible, title contender for sure because I just think he's awesome.
Yeah.
His wife now looks like she just re-upped or is about to possibly re-up with WWE, but she's hurt.
Not there for 9 months though.
Yeah, she's hurt for the next year probably, or maybe a little bit less, but with injuries you never know. So
how long does Andrade have on his deal? Do you know?
I don't, because wasn't there a time where like they sent him home or something, or he got in a fight with Sammy Guevara, or
didn't he Sammy Guevara? Yeah.
Yeah, didn't he just like miss a few? So there may be like tack on time or whatever, but
hey, he could go back to WWE and start a stable with Punk.
There you go.
Eddie Kingston could go over there now. He's a big name. He could start and join that stable too. Just people that beat people up.
The Crimea River gang.
The Crimea River gang. Yeah.
So no, I mean, I love him. I love him in AEW. This is not me rooting for him to. We just hear this constantly that he's maybe not be happy, and maybe that's just noise. Maybe it's not reality. Maybe he's totally fine where he is.
But the other element here, right, is that whoever wins, we don't know what this title means. So, are you going to defend the ROH title in ROH?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of contenders then.
By the way, did you stay up and watch that entire 5-hour ROH pay-per-view?
I passed out. I almost made it to the end. I passed out during it's like midway through the Danielson match, and I watched it the next day.
Okay. Dave said that was the longest pay-per-view in the history of Tony Khan Productions.
Was it really? I bet.
Yeah.
That was very long.
And so there's like, I was talking to somebody in our Discord, and he was just kind of going through like, oh, what if they didn't have to rely on a TV network and they didn't have time cues and they can just put on the show? And I'm like, no, I don't want that, because we're going to get like 7-hour AEW pay-per-views with like 27 matches. Like, I don't want that. Let's keep them. Let's keep them on a schedule here. So my hope, now this was my hope from the beginning, and this is what I said I thought the finals was going to be. I said I thought it was going to be Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And in that scenario, I kind of think Eddie Kingston wins. Not that I'm rooting for anybody to win. I'm just thinking of like, what is the best story? Because Eddie started this tournament on a losing streak, right? And he had to kind of slap himself into being into it and getting back on the board. And he's done a good job, and he's got some wins back. And but that's kind of the way that I thought this was going to go. I know others have thought like this was Danielson's to lose because he's the one who wants to do G1, and it's like, oh, Tony Khan just gave you your own G1 here, or at least somewhat of a G1.
I thought the work was great. The wrestling's been fantastic.
Yeah, it's been a really, really quality tournament, and it makes it's. I'm almost going to be sad for when the tournament ends, because then they're going to have to fill up 3 matches a show with, possibly some of the stuff we were watching before the tournament started, which wasn't always great. I just kind of wish there was just let's just have a tournament existing throughout the entire year. Like, let's just 4 tournaments, 3 months long each, and let's just have tournaments with no interference going for the whole year.
Well, we saw what it did for the NBA. It's helped the NBA tremendously. It's made nothing games turn into meaningful games.
And then the season kind of really starts for fans with Christmas Day. So yeah, they got through the in-season tournament. The Lakers held up their fake championship banner in their arena, and then they got beat by the Knicks. And now we'll get to see the true start of the NBA season. But man, NFL's got some games on Christmas now too. Like, Christmas is kind of crazy. And thankfully, Raw's doing a tape show, so they don't have to even try and compete with these crazy juggernauts of leagues.
And I think, is it a best of for Christmas Eve?
That's what Dave thinks. I think that's what he wrote. He believes it's going to be some sort of best of show.
Yeah, I heard the same.
Yeah. And SmackDown has already been taped, so this Friday will be a tape show, and then their next show will be also a best of. And then we got day one, January 1st, Raw comes back. What did you think of Monday Night Raw?
I thought it was a decent Raw. I thought it was one of the better Raws.
I got through 2 hours of it, and then I had to record with Dave, so I didn't get to see the third hour.
Okay.
But so I missed the Seth and Drew thing, which is the thing that I wanted to watch the most. And so I went back on Hulu this morning, and I'm telling you, I was watching it not fully live, but maybe on like a 10-minute delay. So I was watching the on-demand or the recorded version or whatever. And then I woke up this morning to watch the rest of it not there. And I've talked to a bunch of people, not that many people, but the people who actually have Hulu Live like me. And they're like, yeah, like they're screwy with WWE content, especially Raw. Like there's something going on with the Raw content. And, because the great thing about Hulu is you have that next day Raw feed. And, it's a 90-minute show, which I find to be very easy to watch. But I actually had the recorded version. So I had the full 3-hour version of Raw. And I woke up this morning and it was gone. So I don't know what the hell's going on with Hulu. So I still haven't seen the last hour. I missed the Seth and Drew promo, which I heard was the best thing on the show.
Seth and Drew was good. I do like the interesting. Right now on the WWE website, they're pushing Austin versus Rock in their WrestleMania section. Yeah, that's what I said. Cody and Shinsuke were great too. I thought I'm liking that program. I don't hate it as much as other people. I want to see that match. It's such a weird combination, It's something we haven't seen.
Yes. It's for what it is. We know that it is just there to hold things in place until we start the road to WrestleMania with the Royal Rumble. I think CM Punk adds way more intrigue to this Royal Rumble because now you have multiple people who can win it. I think, Gunther is probably an outside candidate as a possibility as well. Cody, Punk, Gunther, Solo. Like there's some people who have like the smallest of smallest chances to win. Drew as well. What do you think happens between Drew and Seth? Because I asked Dave this last night and I said, I don't think Drew's winning the title because I don't believe he's re-signed his contract yet. And that would lead me to believe that he had a better chance at winning the title if he had been re-signed. But what do you think is going to happen in this match?
I don't know because, there's so many elements here. First of all, we know that, Punk's in the mix here too. So maybe Elimination Chambers where they determine that title, who's the champion there. But Punk's in the Rumble. You have that element kind of what's a better match? Is Seth and Punk without a title the better match?
It's probably better with the title on the line, right?
It's probably, yeah, but now you created a second match that's also a blockbuster. That's for the title. Do you need that title in that match? Does it mean that will it impact it if Punk beats Seth? Right? Does that change anything without the title there? Or maybe that's how you appease everybody. You say, well, listen, we're going to take the title off of Seth. Punk, you're going to beat Seth, and then whoever else has the title, so we're not rewarding the Maniac.
Mm-hmm.
I say it in a nice way. I'm not calling him a Maniac. I mean,
by the way, what did you think of
Scrum?
Yeah, he looked like a maniac in that scrum. What did you think of Dom using old AEW footage to kind of troll Punk?
Oh, hysterical! It's great. It breaks a little bit of that fourth wall.
Yeah,
you're alluding to the other guys. For people who don't know, I think Punk said something like he tweeted, "I've been wanting to punch that kid since he was 8," and Dom put, I think, is that when he broke his foot?
Yes, I think it was that same show.
It was that same match where Punk's on the top rope and he went to do like an elbow or something, and he totally had lost his balance and he fell. Hysterical.
Yeah, that's great. And you can, if you go, and you can find photos of a very young Dom Mysterio in the ring with Punk when Punk had his feud with Rey Mysterio. So that's it's fun when you can sort of look back like that and connect some dots, and they don't forget
So
about their past like they used to.
do you think he asked Punk to do it? Do you think everybody's walking on eggshells around him?
Who asked Punk?
Like Dom goes like, "Hey, listen, I got this idea. I'm gonna tweet this. Are you okay with this?" Or do you think he just put it out there and he thought it was good?
That's a good question. Because Punk is sort of so new back in WWE, I kind of wonder if you do kind of do it together and kind of make sure that you're both on the same page so that no one gets their feelings hurt. But at the same time, I feel like Punk would appreciate Dom being that savvy with the idea, because Punk is a very creative person himself. But yeah, that is true. Like how, I guess it's based on how well they know each other, right? Like if they're
I guess so.
friends or not.
I interesting, right? I thought it was. I'm excited for that match. I think I'm going to that Garden show on Tuesday next week.
You gotta be there, man.
I will be there if I can. I have a commitment for that day that I didn't remember. So, hopefully I'll get it done and I'll be able to go. But I mean, that's really awesome. That'll be his first match back, or no, second match back. And he's at the Garden. I mean, of course you want to see that.
By the way, this show, we will probably be off next week because it will be the day after Christmas. I think we should get producer John to do like a best of Raw for this show. Just get like a bunch of shots of us laughing just by himself.
Yeah. John, I think you need to host a 1-hour show by yourself about wrestling. I think between us and Brian, because he's Brian's producer too, I think he's fine. I think he's picked it up.
Yeah. He can talk about the history of Detroit wrestling.
He's a big Sheik fan.
By the way, have either of you guys seen the Iron Claw yet?
No. I think it comes out on the 22nd, doesn't it?
It comes out on Friday. Or Thursday night,
I
guess.
Friday.
Technically Friday.
I know people that have seen it, and it's interesting how everybody's perspective. Nobody says it's bad.
It's not bad. I saw it last week.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what everybody has said to me, and you tell me if this is fair. If you are a non-wrestling fan, you're going to think it's such a tragically great story. If you are a wrestling fan, you're going to love it. If you are like you and I, right, someone that knows the real story, you're still going to enjoy it, but not as much.
I think that's absolutely 100% on the mark.
Okay.
I think if you lived in Texas and you're close to the Von Erich story as a wrestling fan, you're probably going to be even more frustrated than folks who know that story and did not watch it, did not grow up with it. So here's what I did. I wanted to watch the movie, and I am doing a wrestling movie review, a monthly wrestling movie review podcast for next year in the Fight Game Media feed. So we're just taking wrestling movies and we're goofing on them, like No Holds Barred and stuff. But this is a serious movie, so we're going to review it legitimately. And so I wanted to make sure that I was paying attention to certain things, because when you do a review, you want to kind of have the outline and make sure you're not mixing things up. So I'm going to watch it again. I'll watch it before we actually do the review. But I'm watching the movie and I'm going like, wait, the timeline is so out of order.
That's what everybody said.
The way that I remembered these things happening and the way that I remember reading about them are kind of just whack. And there's one just blatant one that I think probably almost anybody who knows the story probably got upset at.
Which
Von
Erich is missing?
Chris, the youngest.
Chris is missing. Okay.
And I when I talked to Dave about this, I said the reason why I think they found it okay to eliminate him from the movie is because his story, as far as being a failed wrestler, is kind of similar to Mike's story as for why their reasoning for committing suicide, per what they said. So they probably felt like they didn't want to tell that same story. And maybe if they did have him, they would have had to change what the reasoning was. So I get it. But, it is there is an absence. Like, you feel the absence.
But I feel like Mike was a big dude, right? Like Mike was at least 6 feet tall. Chris was what, 5'4",
He was like
5'5"?
5'5", yeah.
And I think that was part of the story with him as to, this guy, he was around these like, Greek gods,
Well,
and he was little.
Carrie had like a bodybuilder's physique, right? Like your pops would be like, oh, I like that Carrie guy.
My father loved the Texas Tornado, loved him. And he goes, listen, that guy is same as Ultimate Warrior. Same guy.
The problem with the Carrie character in this movie, though, is the guy from The Bear. It is Jeremy Allen White, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
He's no chance to be that big. Like, he's just not, like, he doesn't.
No, but
his body-wise, he doesn't resemble Carrie. Zac Efron, if they could have switched bodies, because him and Randy Orton, man, they've been hanging and banging together because those dudes are giant. But
no,
yeah,
Randy
Zac Efron
has a modern body. No. Randy got a modern body. Randy's doing it the modern way. This dude is doing. I'm making a joke here. I'm not alleging anything. He's on Winstrol. I mean, he's going old school. It's Deca. He's ordering it from Russia. It's whatever the Russian athletes used. He is not a big jacked up dude, and this guy now is a big jacked up dude. It's unbelievable.
You know where I first saw it, and I think this is where he first started the heavy weight training. He was in Baywatch with The Rock. So imagine, you have to do a movie with Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and you have to take your shirt off. Can you believe how intimidating that is?
Yeah, it's ridiculously intimidating.
Okay, wait. Now, if we can be conspiracy theorists, maybe he got some tips from Dwayne, because what 50-year-old man looks better than The Rock?
What man? Yeah. Is he 50-50 on the dot? What'd he say? Hold on. What'd he say?
Producer John said Dave Meltzer.
Dave Meltzer. The biggest arms in the business.
Yeah. Dave.
Talking to his weights.
Dave's got crazy genetics, man. Just insane genetics.
And you know what's wild? I've seen how he eats. He eats like so clean.
Chicken breast and tuna and broccoli and greens. Like that's some, rice sometimes, but that's literally
what he ordered at Chili's.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. It was like a glass of water and like chicken and rice. That was it.
Do you know the Dave Meltzer lunch deal?
No. Does he not believe in burritos like Vince either?
No, I don't. Yeah, that's actually a good question. I would put money on Dave maybe eating less than 2 burritos in his whole life.
Do you think Vince like appreciates Dave a little bit more because of how jacked he is? He has to.
He's probably jealous.
Yeah,
because Dave's clean and Vince wasn't clean.
Allegedly,
it's like, man, if I had to, if I didn't have to do all this stuff,
I got a text from Lance. And I was talking about Randy's body on the show. So Lance texted me. I gotta read this because it's
another clean guy there.
Another clean guy. Yeah, another clean guy. And this led to a whole conversation about me being on TRT with him. And so I brought it up. I gotta scroll up because we started talking about so much. And I got a lesson from Lance Storm, which is always great.
Yes.
He goes, big news story of the week. No longer is Raw WBD. It's wrestling reporter Andrew Zarian on the gas. And I wrote life-changing. That was my response.
Yeah, man. You're not an athlete. You don't have to test for athletic competition. You're doing stuff that you believe in improves your life. So
oh yeah, we should talk about that one day. We'll go deep into detail about it.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of people to start asking their doctors for their testosterone count.
Dude, life changing.
So I when you see it, we'll do a more formal review of the Iron Claw because I'm very interested to hear. Cool. But so basically, what I did is I watched the movie, and then I went back to read Dave's biography on Carrie when Carrie passed away, because I think that's the best thing out there as far as the real story and the timeline of everything that happened. But there's also an Irv Munchnick story It's called gosh, what is it? I forgot what it's called, but it was a Penthouse article, and it kind of
Okay.
broke the myths of the Von Erichs to like a little bit of a more mainstream audience. I don't know how mainstream Penthouse is, but and so he also has a book called Wrestling Babylon where he reprinted that story. But that story is good as well. Really, really good stuff. And I know in one of the bios, I don't know if it was the Kerry bio or the Fritz bio, where Dave actually mentions that Irv story. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of good stuff. If you want to read the real story, it is out there, and it's really interesting. I think the real story is more interesting than the narrative they told in the movie, but I'm sure from the visual perspective, they thought that this was the better way to tell the story. But MJF is in it for 15 seconds or so
Okay.
as Lance Von Erich and
The fake Von Erich.
the fake Von Erich. And you know that story, right? About how Lance Von Erich was brought in as the son of Waldo, who Waldo was the fake brother of Fitz, who worked Bruno and those guys. And then Lance Von Erich jumped to another territory, and then Fritz went on TV and was like, nope, he was never a Von Erich. This is his real name. So he's like mad at him and went on television.
He buried his own territory.
To bury
his own story. Can you imagine how enraged he got to be for a man like Fritz Von Erich, you know, like an old school tough guy, to go like, yeah, this whole thing is bullshit. Okay, his real name, whatever it is, you know, is Michael Schindler. You know,
exactly.
He's from Venice Beach. He's not even from Texas.
Yeah, exactly. He was like a model or something, I think. But yeah, so we'll talk about it when we get to your review of it. But let's just break down before we get out of here. Let's break down Raw Day 1, Seth against Drew. And again, I'm into this match because I'm into the Drew character big time. You know, the Drew character, I think, makes the Seth character more interesting because he's being really believable. And I haven't even seen the stuff from last night, but he's being really believable. And Seth is so over the top that I almost find the Drew character to be the babyface in the story because Seth is just so over the top. But yeah, I think that should be a great match. Rhea Ripley against Ivy Nile. Now, on Raw, they cut to the back, and Ivy Nile is on dip 97 of 100, and she finishes out the 100 dips. Have you ever done 100 dips at a time before?
No, but I did have the dip record in high school.
Which was?
It was like 46. Something. It was something, not 100. But you know, we were all jacked up kids then.
What about pull-ups? What was your most pull-ups?
I don't know. I never counted. I think I could do like 20. Like I wasn't a big. I got bad shoulders, so like the dips and the pull-ups are the worst thing for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. You know who's the pull-up king is Brian Alvarez.
How many can he do?
I don't know, but there's a story where I forget where Dave and Brian were, and they were just having a pull-ups contest, and then Brian just kind of walked in and didn't know that there was a pull-ups contest, and then just won the contest.
I could right now. The only number that I know that I could do is 52 push-ups.
There you go.
That's my right now. I'm at 52. I want to be at 100. I'm doing that.
Well, that's what your dad said. You got to get to 100 before you can get back in the gym.
You could get back in the gym. That's what my father told me. Listen, when you do 100, that's when you work out. It's not a workout unless you're doing 100. It's fucking unbelievable. I gotta. You know what? One day I'll bring him on the show.
Oh, got to. We got to. That's a must. Okay, so as you're getting back into lifting again, and I mean, you not that you stopped necessarily, but I know you're like back and thinking about it a lot more. How are your elbows? Because my elbows are in so much pain these days. It makes it hard to work out, and I really have to kind of push through the elbow pain. But like if I was to do push-ups, the elbows will get me to stop doing them before my chest tires out.
So I've I've discovered that my body, just like I guess my tendons, I can't lift more than 30-pound weights. When
Interesting.
if I go over 30-pound weights, the elbows go, and especially my left elbow, it's so brutal and it sets me back months. So
Yeah.
I'm not even touching that. I'm just doing 25s.
Yeah.
I'll do like very light, small rep sets of 25 until I build it up. But the bigger problem is my shoulder. My rotator is a disaster.
Yeah. Me too.
So I have to be really
Baseball injuries.
careful on like, yeah, that's what it is. I used to pitch. Uh, I got to be super careful that like once I feel it coming, I'm like, okay, I got to take off for a little bit.
Yeah, I have to do shoulder specific exercises because it just feels like feels loose in there. Like so I have to do the people can see the video, these things and you're pulling and you're like doing that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, like I like in my mind, like if I didn't have these elbow problems, I would probably be just as strong as I was about 10 years ago. But because of the elbows, it's just so much harder and a lot of mind over matter. And I just don't want to get hurt to the point of where, then you got to stop for a while and such.
Yeah.
So the elbows and yeah, the shoulders too kind of bother me. But all right, next match here.
We got a super chat, by the way, if you want to do this.
Go for it. Put it up. Put it up.
Want to do this? I can't pull it up, but it says Ryan 94 $4.99. With it being the last show of the year, can we get each of your unofficial match of the years?
Mine's easy. I'll say
what is yours? Yeah.
Omega Ospreay from Wrestle Kingdom. It sets the bar very high on January the 4th, but I don't think I saw a better match than that all year long.
I'm leaning towards that.
And I know a lot of people like the second match better. My problem with the second match, and it's not even a problem, you're talking about, a great match versus a great match. The reason why I lean more towards the first one is because I thought there was an attempt to sort of fool the audience a little bit on the finish, and I just didn't like that finish as much as I liked the finish in the first match.
I like that one. I really liked MJF Danielson.
Well, I was going to say, is there a match that you saw live like that was your favorite? Because that's probably the best match that I saw live was the Danielson and MJF match in San Francisco.
What did I go to this year? I didn't really go to much like match of the year style shows. I mean, I was at Grand Slam and I went to a bunch of WWE shows here in New York, but I didn't travel for a pay-per-view. I may get to see something tremendous at World's End.
Mm-hmm.
There's still for that. I did really like Ospreay and Danielson. That was like right up my alley, but I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go with the first, the Wrestle Kingdom 17 Omega Ospreay.
Yeah, that would be, I think that's a safe pick. And the only problem with that match is it happened in January. And so you kind of see a bunch of stuff and you kind of wonder, can the best match be all the way back in January? I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you for that super chat. Okay, and then Becky Lynch and Nia Jax. What did you think of their little tete-a-tete back and forth on Raw?
I mean, they're reviving an angle from how many years ago, right?
Like 6 years ago, I think, or something like that.
And it made Becky. It made her at that point. I don't know. I thought it was fine. They brawled. They did their thing. Obviously, it's leading to something big here, and they're trying with Nia, but it just did nothing for me.
What do you think about Becky calling herself the GOAT? Can you call yourself the GOAT and be a babyface?
WWE, you can do whatever you want. They don't have any rules anymore.
Like LeBron James, right? Like, even if you don't believe LeBron James is the best player in the history of the NBA, let's say you still think Michael Jordan is, or maybe you believe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is. But what if LeBron was just going out there and saying, I am the GOAT in every interview? It would kind of be a turnoff to me. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that she goes that route, that smugness.
They stripped her of that genuine feel. She's now an attraction. Mm-hmm. And I liked the old Becky.
Yeah.
I like the humble Becky. I don't like
She
they
she did the Conor McGregor version of who
yeah,
she is when she
yeah.
turned heel.
It doesn't work for me. It maybe works for you. It doesn't work for me. I don't love it. I like the old humble Becky that was, she was not Charlotte. She didn't get the attention Charlotte got. She didn't get the attention that Mercedes got, Monet. She was the other one, and she organically got over. It was more like a Danielson movement. And then immediately, what did they do? They turned her into Seth Rollins.
And thanks Ronda Rousey for all the attention there.
Yeah.
Ronda was a big part
Huge.
of that. Okay, and then the last match that they have on the docket is Natalya and Tegan Nox versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. That is to become the number one contender to Katana and Kaden, who just won the tag straps from Chelsea and Piper Niven. So big show in 2 weeks on Raw. And I guess we should just say our goodbyes now for the rest of the year. We'll have to figure out if we can come back on the 2nd or not. I don't know what your work schedule is going to be like, but we'll figure it out. If not, maybe I could put something together. But I just want to wish you, Andrew, and your family, and you, producer John, and your family, a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I hope you guys have a blast. And I hope to hear some stories from some of the family parties and shenanigans and everything that's going on. And when you maybe you have a couple of bourbon there, and all of a sudden stories get created. So I'm excited for those texts. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great one.
This was an amazing year. We did the show solo this year. It was. I think the show developed into something else that we had originally thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this. This is fantastic. This is a joy to my Tuesdays. I love doing this. And we'll have another fantastic 2024. I'm looking forward to it.
It's an extension of our texts, really. Like the how we
Literally
are in text is very similar to how we are on the air with each other. So also to the F4W community, both the website and the YouTube channel, to everyone who supported us, we appreciate y'all. And we'll miss you next week. But like I said, if Andrew and I can't get together on the 2nd, I'll still see if I can do something. We'll put something together because we don't want to go more than a week without having something. So thanks, Andrew. And thanks, producer John. Thanks to everyone who's listening and watching. So for Andrew, I am Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.